Hello, my name is Delaney Melendez, and in this presentation, I'm going to be talking about leader influence, vision, spiritual health, spiritual responsibility, and the foundations of spiritual formation, as well as some practical applications. So, I feel like I've learned so much in this class. In these short 7 weeks, I've done so much reflecting and growing, and I was actually a little bit hesitant to take this class because I had already taken a leadership and a spiritual formation class at San Diego Christian. But I'm so glad that I made the decision to follow through with the course. I was like, oh, I already took both the classes separately. Why would I take a combined class? But all the resources that were given to me in this class were super helpful, and the assignments were great and pushed me to take a deeper dive into leadership and spiritual formation and how both of these things affect my life. It was also really cool that we are learning from a Christian perspective. It's such a blessing that I can learn about leadership and pursue my business degree without feeling like my faith doesn't have a place in what I'm studying. Being able to apply biblical principles into my education is so important, and it's nothing that I take lightly. So this course has challenged me to reflect on my own faith and be more intentional with the spiritual disciplines that I practice. And it's also the smallest class that I've been in at SDCC, and so there's only one other person in the class, and because of this I feel like I really got to know her perspective on all the topics that we were learning about, and I feel like I really appreciated her feedback and insights because of this. I think that as Christians, it's so important that we are learning from one another and letting other Christians be a part of our spiritual growth. We should see them as examples as they do their best to radiate the light of Jesus and, mimic that. So one of my favorite things about this class is that it also taught the importance of looking to Jesus for direction and purpose in our leadership. We are made in God's image, and He is the ultimate leader. So therefore, we were created to lead. He's a perfect example of what a good leader looks like, and we are to serve with servant hearts, just like he did. I'm going to read Mark 10:42 through 45, that says, "You know that those who are this is Jesus talking. So you know that those who are regarded as rulers of the Gentiles lord over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to serve, but to be served, not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." So Jesus is very clear about the fact that anyone who wants to be first must be very last and a servant of all. Jesus laid his life down to serve, and Jesus was beaten and humiliated for us, for my sins, and for the sins of the world. And there is such a beautiful example of true, genuine leadership in this sacrifice, and we are called to lay down our own lives or pride or selfish desires or whatever that might be to serve others and to lead them in our love for them and through the love of the Father. So this is also stated in Matthew 10:25 through 28, where Jesus tells us that to be good leaders, we must first humble ourselves. And I think that this is one of my favorite things that I was reminded of in this whole course, and I believe that this is the best type of leadership for a Christian to practice because it directly aligns with the values that we should have and the ways that the Bible says we should live and treat others. So, yeah. Next I'm going to talk about leader influence. As followers of God, we are living in the light of Jesus, and we are to share his love and lead others through that love. No matter what stage of life that we are in, we have influence, and this is because there are always going to be people who are watching us, and we're going to be impacting people through all of the stages of life. And this is especially true for Christians because people are always going to be watching our lives and how we interact with others, because there are many people out there who don't yet believe in Jesus, but who are watching his church. And this is why it's so important that we are mindful and we are good examples of Christ. And there is such great power, this is important, in sharing the gospel. Because people can't understand who Jesus is or what he did for them if they only ever just watch Christians. We should also be using our words to share the gospel. Romans 10:14 says, "How then will they call on him in whom they have not believed? And how are they to believe in him of whom they have not heard? And how are they to hear without somebody preaching?" It's important that we actually are living out what we're proclaiming. And as people continue to watch us and hear our stories, we can show them day in and day out what it means to follow Christ and live in the fullness of the joy that he gives us each day. Someone is always watching, and the way that we live our life and the words that we speak and what we do even when we think nobody sees us, it's so important. And this is why everyone is a leader, and we are to lead with the same values that we consider important in our faith. So next I'm going to talk about vision. The Lord has ultimate authority, and leaders have such important roles. Leaders were given to the church, I think, as a gift for the advancement of the church and for its joy. Leaders should be genuinely seeking what is best for others and what will give them their deepest and most enduring joy. Leaders need to know the vision that they have for their institutions, and they need to be able to properly communicate this vision to their people. It would be unfair of a leader to put expectations on their employees if they do not first clearly communicate this vision to their people. And it would also be unfair because if they don't communicate their vision, then everyone will end up getting disappointed over and over again. This is something that is so important because there needs to be open communication between all members of an organization. So without trust, this could not take place, and effective leadership would not be carried out. Leaders need to be confident and decisive in what they want their vision to look like and be actively intentional about sharing the vision. They should also be open to the input of others because there are so many insights that a leader can benefit from while creating a vision if they just listen. So the next topic is spiritual responsibility. Spiritual responsibility holds a huge significance for Christians because of their faith in the teachings of Jesus Christ. A person's spiritual responsibility can relate to so many different areas of their own life. So one of these areas is a deep relationship with God. Christianity emphasizes a personal relationship with God, and spiritual responsibility involves nurturing this relationship through things like prayer, worship, adherence to Christian values, you name it. Taking on spiritual responsibility means living according to these principles, promoting righteousness, love, forgiveness, and compassion. When people or leaders do this, they will begin to see their service overflow with good fruit. And spiritual responsibility also involves striving to live as Christ did. This includes serving others and spreading the message of love and salvation. As people are intentional about being obedient to the Lord, they will start to become more and more like Jesus every single day. Spiritual responsibility also includes active participation and supporting fellow believers and contributing to the well-being of the church and its mission. They need to be actively involved in the church body so that they can be there for them and hold them accountable, and they can also be held accountable themselves. So in summary, spiritual responsibility is important for Christians because it aligns with the core teachings and the values of their faith. It guides them in living a life that reflects their beliefs, fostering a strong connection with God and fellow believers. So much personal growth can take place when people take on spiritual responsibility. Spiritual health is next. So spiritual health refers to the well-being of a person's spirit or soul. It often is in the context of religious or philosophical beliefs. It encompasses a deep sense of purpose, meaning, and connection to something greater than oneself. Spiritual health is highly personal and can take various forms depending on individual beliefs or the experiences of a Christian. Spiritual health is crucial to a believer's walk with God, and maintaining a healthy spiritual life can be really hard at times. So maintaining and tending to our spiritual health is a journey. It's going to last a lifetime, but it's so important because it helps Christians nurture their faith and provides guidance and fosters a sense of community and empowers Christians to live lives that are aligned with their religious values and beliefs. So you want to make sure that everything's healthy in that area. And as we build our relationship with the Lord, the guidance and strength that only comes from a deep connection with Him becomes so evident. And in addition to this, Christianity emphasizes things like love, compassion, and service to others. And so a healthy spiritual life can motivate Christians to engage in all of these aspects and act in kindness and help those in need. And many people don't realize how big of an effect their spiritual health also has on their mental and physical health. There are all sorts of methods that a Christian can use to help them strengthen their relationship with the Lord, and spending time in the Word or prayer, worship, fellowship with other Christians. Those are just some of the examples, but it's important to remember that spiritual growth is a gradual process and there's no one-size-fits-all approach. So what works for one person might not work for another, but you have to figure out what works for you and try and remain the most spiritual healthy you can be while living your life and living with the Lord. So some foundations for spiritual formation is the next category. So spiritual formation is a process of developing and deepening one's spiritual relationship with God. While it can be highly individualized, there are many common foundations that provide a framework for spiritual formation. So the most important part of spiritual formation is faith. Without this, it'd be a mess, and there's no way that any transformation can take place within us. There's also a level of self-awareness that a person needs to be having so that they can notice when growth is taking place. Prayer and studying the Bible is also super important for spiritual formation, and showing others compassion and serving others is crucial as well. So helping others and engaging in acts of service are fundamental, and though they're actions that many people can go about living out, there are certain things that you need to do in order so that you can live like Jesus did and to serve like Him. So this is also really true for leaders. God does a really big work in us when we work in others, and we need to be leading in love for others and serving with the purest of intentions so that transformation can take place in our hearts. Spiritual formation is a deeply personal journey that is constantly developing, and so there's so many different approaches to what it can look like, but same thing with spiritual health. We just want to make sure that we are aware of the ways that we are changing and letting God change us and serving others through this. So practical applications. I think this course has taught me so much about leadership and spiritual formation. I think that there are so many takeaways that I can carry with me for years to come. It's never a bad thing to learn about spiritual formation or how to be a better leader. And so much of the knowledge that I have gained is going to be so valuable to me in my everyday life as long as I'm intentional with applying all of these principles to the way that I live and the way that I lead. So I feel like this course also gave me a bunch of practical disciplines that I can put into place to strengthen my relationship with God and become a better and just stronger leader. That is all I have, and thank you for listening.